Daniel O'Neill had spent almost 10 years camping alone in the British wilderness. So being alone in the woods wasn't exactly unusual for him. But during one camping trip in August 2023, something happened that made even him abandon his campsite. Daniel had walked for about 20 minutes before reaching a clearing where he planned to spend the night. Along the trail, he had already noticed footprints and piles of garbage, proving that other people had recently been in the area. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Daniel sat against a tree, ate his noodles, and talked casually to his camera. Then, roughly 25 minutes into the recording, footsteps suddenly echoed from somewhere directly behind him.
A budget.
Daniel immediately turned around and looked through the trees. There was nobody there. He called out, "Hello." And the moment he did, the footsteps stopped, completely. Daniel tried to convince himself that it had been an animal. But as he sat back down, the silence became almost unbearable. A few minutes later, the sound returned.
Hello? You got a bit of that. There's nobody here.
This time, the footsteps seemed closer. Again, Daniel looked around, but there was nothing. Somehow, he still decided to stay and finish his dinner. Then darkness began falling over the woods, and once the sun disappeared, the footsteps started again. Daniel finally admitted he was too nervous to stay. He packed up his things and decided to find somewhere else to camp. The strangest part is that the sounds seemed remarkably similar to human footsteps, moving with a steady rhythm instead of the unpredictable movements you'd normally expect from an animal. Daniel even pointed out that the grass was wet, making it unlikely that an animal walking through it would create such a dry, deliberate sound. He never discovered who or what had been walking behind him, but leaving that campsite may have been the best decision he made that night. At around 2 in the morning on a freezing night in December 2014, a man named Forest Fire 21 recorded something coming from the woods behind his house. At first, the audio sounds distant and difficult to understand, but then you can clearly hear what appears to be a young girl screaming. The uploader lived in a forested area, meaning the sounds weren't coming from a busy neighborhood or a nearby road. They were coming from deep inside the darkness. As people listened more carefully, they noticed something even more disturbing. Beneath the girl's screams, another voice could apparently be heard, saying, "Where are you?" The quieter adult voice made the recording even more unsettling because it suggested the girl might not have been alone. The uploader said that after hearing the screams, he checked the news every day, hoping to find some explanation for what had happened that night. But nothing ever appeared to explain them. There was no clear report that connected the screams to an accident, an emergency, or anything else. And that's where the mystery ends. We don't know who the girl was. We don't know who the adult voice belonged to. And we don't know what was happening somewhere beyond the trees that night. Some viewers questioned why the uploader didn't immediately call police, while others believed he may have done so without mentioning it in the video. Either way, the recording remains disturbing because it captures something that sounds like genuine distress in the middle of a dark forest, at 2 in the morning, with absolutely no explanation for where it came from. Lisa was used to traveling alone in her van, but one afternoon in 2022, a stranger approached her and made her feel trapped inside her own vehicle. Lisa had parked beside the road and left the side door open while she prepared dinner. Suddenly, a man approached, leaned his head inside the van without permission, and began speaking to her in French. Lisa didn't understand what he was saying, so the man pulled out a translation app and continued trying to communicate with her. She was clearly uncomfortable and eventually shut the door and closed the curtain, making it obvious that she wanted him to leave. But he didn't. For more than 30 minutes, the man remained outside in the rain, repeatedly trying to communicate with her. Then his behavior became even stranger. He moved into the bushes and appeared to watch Lisa from a distance. As the sun began going down, she noticed that he kept moving his vehicle closer to her van, repeatedly positioning it in ways that appeared to block her exit.
He just moved even closer. so that I can't move out, and so that I can't go forward. Please leave. Please leave, you sketchy person. Please leave.
Lisa became increasingly frightened, saying that she felt trapped and couldn't easily get away. Then, just as darkness arrived, another family traveling in an RV pulled into the same parking area and stayed nearby. Their presence seemed to change everything. The stranger finally left. Maybe he intended something much worse. But the most frightening part was the fact that Lisa was alone, isolated, and had no idea what the stranger was capable of. And if that other family hadn't arrived when they did, the situation could have ended very differently.
In northern Germany, two friends decided to explore something that had been hidden beneath the woods for decades. One of them had grown up hearing stories about strange pipes sticking out of the ground near his home. As children, he and his siblings knew there were bunkers hidden beneath them, but their parents had always forbidden them from going anywhere near the entrances. Years later, the two friends finally decided to explore them. They found an entrance covered by a loose wooden board and removed it with a crowbar. Beneath the forest was an enormous maze of concrete corridors stretching hundreds, possibly thousands, of feet underground. At first, the tunnels seemed empty, but the deeper they went, the more disturbing the signs became. Graffiti covered sections of the walls, proving that other people had ventured inside before them. Then they found a message that immediately changed the atmosphere. One wall had the German word for help written repeatedly across it. And then they discovered another disturbing phrase: "Hello, Satan, I love you." The two friends continued exploring for hours, passing flooded rooms, old machinery, twisting corridors, and dead ends. Fortunately, they never encountered another person, and eventually they managed to find their way back to the surface. But the thought of being lost down there is terrifying.